Hey, grasshoppers, as you can see, this lesson is coming to you from the kitchen of La Casa di Moretti. It's a little bit too chilly today to be lecturing you from outside on my back deck. Therefore, here we are. Okay. Today's lesson is to set up what you're going to learn this week about the age of exploration, the so-called age of exploration. So I would like to remind you that each day this week, I'm going to have a different group of you in class with me together. And we're going to talk and discuss and probably get to at some point what we're studying this week. But the age of exploration is the last of the subjects that you're going to be learning about and before you guys take your upcoming Unit 1 test, okay? And my goal is to lay out for you the reasons why white Europeans explored the world and what happened as a result. So when you take notes on this mini lecture, and for all of them this week, okay, I want you to think about it in terms of cause and effect. What caused Europeans to be able to go out there and do these things, and what were the effects, all right, especially long term, okay? Being that we only have 20 minutes, let's get right down to it. So we are in this module, right here for October 5. We're going to open it up. If you were in my lecture today, if you were in my classroom today, you are now at home doing this while everybody else did it while you were in class. So you can see that the purpose of this lesson is to introduce the age of exploration. And like I said, think cause and effect. So when you're taking notes from me on this, cause and effect, okay? It's similar to like what we did with Martin Luther and the Protestant Reformation, right? We talked about the causes of Martin Luther challenging the Catholic Church, and then what were the effects as Christianity changed and spread and the Catholics fought back against it, right? So right now we're taking a look at something that's going on at the same time. So I would like to remind you guys that, at the same time that Michelangelo is doing his work in the Renaissance, Martin Luther is challenging the Catholic Church. And at that same time, Christopher Columbus in Spain and Portugal, like they're exploring the world, okay? So this is all going on around the same time. History does not occur in a vacuum. It occurs simultaneously, okay? And again, I think you'll find that the thing that binds everything together here is humanism, right? Humanism celebrates human accomplishments and achievement. It also puts human greed and human desires on display, okay? You're going to see, for example, a lot of these explorers are going to be exploring in the name of Christianity and spreading it, but they're not going to act like Christians, okay? And so it just gives you a sense of the humanism that's creeping in and affecting everything, okay? And so here's a map of some of the early routes that were taken by Spanish and Portuguese explorers from the 1400s to the 1500s. You guys know that Christopher Columbus is the first one. 1492 sailed the ocean blue, but he was for Spain heading west and ran into the Americas. But there were already also routes that had been figured out going this direction, east, okay? So let's talk a little bit about why this all happens. That's the goal of today's lesson, is to introduce this topic to you, okay? So gold, glory, and God is the easiest way to capture this. And I know that this phrase has been used before. You guys probably even have heard it in middle school, potentially. But it really lays out, it's really a good 3 G's to lay out the reasons why explorers did this, okay? Gold, they were looking for riches, okay? They were hoping that these explorations would yield great riches and returns. You guys need to understand that people in Europe, business people, would sponsor these voyages. So they would pay money to get a ship, to pay a crew with a captain, to give them whatever they needed in terms of equipment and weapons and such, and then send them with the idea that when those guys came back, they would bring riches with them, and the business people that funded these trips would get wealthy on this too. Okay, so gold or wealth is a big reason this is done. Glory. A lot of these guys wanted to just build glory for themselves, right? I'm the guy that so-called discovered America. I'm the guy that was the first to go all the way around the world in a ship without stopping. I'm the guy that figured out how to get to India, whatever. They're trying to obtain glory for themselves, okay? And is there anything more humanistic than glory for yourself? Look at what I accomplished, okay? And then the other reason is God. A lot of these explorers, pretty much all of them, are going to be spreading Christian ideals. They're spreading the religion of Christianity, especially being that Portugal and Spain were heavily Catholic nations. And if you remember what I've already taught you about the Protestant Reformation, the Catholics are getting nervous that these new versions of Christianity that are popping up everywhere, these Protestant versions of Christianity, are threatening them, okay? And so they want to fight back by spreading the Catholic religion all the way around the world. And the version of Catholicism that is being spread by these guys named Jesuits, okay? Again, I refer back to the last lesson I taught you. And some of you, I didn't get to this. I just told you to read it on your own. But Jesuit missionaries, okay? Jesuits, okay? And these Jesuit missionaries are going with these voyagers, and they're bringing the Catholic religion with them. A great example of this at work is Mexico today, okay? Why is it that people who live in Mexico today, why do they speak Spanish, and why are they overwhelmingly Catholic, okay? And I have some people that are Mexican heritage in my classes, right? Chances are, although not always, but chances are your family speaks Spanish and they're Catholic, all right? Well, why is that? Because these Jesuit missionaries from Spain, along with the explorers from Spain, conquered that territory in the Americas. And when they did that, they spread their language and they spread their religion, okay? So that brings me to another one of my sexy words, okay? Here it is, right? It's a sexy word. We got to use a sexy voice. Hegemony. Hey, baby, how'd you like to feel my hegemony? All right. Yikes. What is that? What is that? Hegemony is forced cultural influence. All right. So we're going to put it down right here like this. Right. Hegemony is like, for those of you in class that are like Polish or Lithuanian or something, and your parents or maybe your grandparents lived under Soviet rule in Russia, you might have heard stories about how they were forced to learn Russian history, and they were forced to be communist, and they were forced to speak Russian in school and things like that. That's an example of hegemony. When one culture kind of dominates another, it spreads its values there, okay? And this is what happened in the Americas, for example, in a place like what is today Mexico, Central America, because Spain went there, and therefore they brought their cultural ideas. The original inhabitants of Central America were Native American, okay? They weren't Native American like we know up here in North America, like, the Cherokee or the Navajo or the, or we think of like the Seminole Native Americans or the Iroquois, right? Like up by us. But there were Native Americans in Central America, like the Aztecs, like the Incas, okay? And they didn't speak Spanish, and they certainly weren't Christian, and they weren't the Catholic version of Christianity either. But when Spain came in and conquered them, they spread their influence. All right, the Spanish influence grew and spread. And so here we are, 500-600 years later, and people in Central America speak Spanish and they worship a Roman Catholic style. Okay, it's the lingering effects, all right, of exploration. You guys got it? Because this is really important. I am teaching you about these explorers, not because I want to highlight how brave and like great they were, right? In fact, quite the contrary. A lot of these guys were scumbags, all right? These explorers from Europe. But you need to understand the effects of what they did because it explains the world today. Okay, that's what I'm trying to win. I'm not here to celebrate the accomplishments of Christopher Columbus. As far as I'm concerned, the guy was a scumbag. Okay, and I'm going to make that abundantly clear as we go forward. Okay, so you take a look at these routes around the world, right, and you can see how wide-ranging this is going to be. Contrary to popular belief, these explorers did not believe that the world was flat, all right? They already had a sense that it wasn't flat. I mean, let's be honest. If you really thought the world was flat, would you get in a boat and just head out into the ocean and just, well, I hope I make it? Like, no, man. Like, people already had an indication that the world was round. That's the whole reason why Spain went this direction. They went west, okay, to try and get to this part of the world known as the East Indies, okay? So now I'm starting to really get into the causes of why they go out there, right? The gold, glory, and God part here. So the East Indies, I'm gonna put that in the whiteboard for you so that way you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So the East Indies, for Europeans, they were talking about India and China. That's where they wanted to go, okay? And the reason why white European explorers wanted to go to India and China is because there were riches there that people in Europe wanted. And they knew about these riches because of a guy who had gone by land named Marco Polo, who had taken the trip by land and had come back wealthier than God. I mean, he had, what do the East Indies have? They have silk, they have porcelain, they have jewels and gold, they have spices, all of these things that like white people really want living in Europe. And Marco Polo had gone there and had gotten rich doing this, but there had been a problem since Marco Polo had last went. Okay, I apologize for the constant screen sharing. When Marco Polo went by land like this and got all the way to like China, okay, since then, the Ottoman Empire and the Muslims have closed down those routes. So white people, it's very difficult to get from Europe to China by land anymore because you're gonna have to go through areas controlled by the Ottoman Empire. And so these European explorers were looking for a way to get there by ship, okay? And you can see that some of them are gonna go this way. Portuguese explorers are going to go this way to get to the East Indies, what they consider the East Indies, okay? But Spanish explorers are going to go this way, right? Beginning with really beginning with Columbus, okay? And so they're going to go this way, and they're going to run into the Americas. And that, of course, you guys know the story. That's why Columbus and the boys thought that they were in the East Indies, and they called the inhabitants of the Bahamas that they ran into, what we would say today, the present-day Bahamas, they ran into them. They called them Indians because that's what they thought they were, okay? But they bumped into this by accident, all right? But again, why would Spanish explorers even go that way to get over here unless they knew that the world was round and that they would make it, okay? And so that kind of shows you the dynamics of what's going on here, all right? Why were they the ones that were able to do this? Like, why didn't African explorers go out across the world? Why didn't explorers from Central America end up in London or Madrid, Spain, or Paris, right? Well, Europeans were uniquely positioned at this point, okay? They had a lot of immunities to diseases that were prevalent in this part of the world, in Europe and Africa, especially in North Africa. Europeans had domesticated animals, and they were easily domesticated animals like pigs and cows, which meant a good food source. So the population of Europe was kind of like relatively healthy and ready to go. You think about domestic animals like cows and pigs, and you think, what's the big deal? And it is a big deal, right? What animal are you going to domesticate for milk or food in Africa, right? Like, are you going to try and domesticate a lion? Are you going to try and domesticate a giraffe? I mean, that's extremely difficult, okay? So these kind of docile animals, like, remember, a cow pretty much exists to be eaten, okay? I mean, it is an easy animal to domesticate and then use for food or milk. And so that's a huge advantage. And Europeans use that to build up their population, right? Meanwhile, their trade routes had acquired a lot of technology from the Muslims in the Middle East, especially things like the compass that they could use to guide them on their voyages, gunpowder from China that Europeans made into guns, right? So they had these advantages, and they used them to see what's out there. And with the growing education going on in Europe because of the printing press and the Renaissance and humanism made people want to explore possibilities and see what's out there. You can kind of see why Europeans did this. But they brought with them a very nasty attitude, which we are going to call ethnocentrism. They believed that they were the best, that white European people had this ethnocentric position that like white is best, okay? And they start to develop that vision of themselves because they looked at some of these advancements that they had come up with, and they thought that that made them superior, okay? And we'll talk more about this later, but it's very dangerous to decide you're a superior culture just because of the toys you have, right? The technology you have. We're gonna really investigate this idea later. Like, does technology make you more civilized than somebody else? And that is a really important thing for us to think about. I think you guys can all see that I don't believe that's the case, all right? But like a lot of people believe that just because I have guns and I have ships and I have whatever, that makes me a superior culture. And I think you're going to find that's not the case. But that's what these people believe. That's what these white Europeans believe, that they were superior because of this, okay? And they were very racist and they were very ethnocentric. Like, so it wasn't even like white is best for a lot of these Europeans, but it was also like Spain is best or France or England. And so they're going to go over and like bring their culture with them and force it on whoever they come into contact with. You're going to be looking for examples of ethnocentrism as we go through this week, right? When they run into people who live in other lands, they're going to quickly call them savages, okay? And that tells you everything you need to know. They're going to call the people they meet savages because the people they meet aren't going to dress like them. They're not going to worship Jesus. They don't have Christianity. They're not going to have guns and things like that. And so Europeans will refer to the Native Americans and Native peoples they find everywhere in India or in China or wherever, or in Africa. They're going to view them as savages. And that gives you a sense of the mindset that goes into the age of exploration. This is not some just like heroic act that we celebrate today because, oh, look at these brave men. Like, these guys were racist, ethnocentric. Yes, they were smart and they had technology that helped them to dominate, right? But you got to understand the whole picture of this, all right? And they called themselves conquistadors. Conquistador. I don't think it takes a genius to realize that the word conquistador means conqueror. And that tells you everything that you need to know, right, guys? Like, they're not going, these Europeans that are exploring the world are not going to be nice. That's not what they're there for, okay? I'll give you an analogy, right? I have 3 daughters in my household, okay? What if a guy showed up at the front door to take one of them out, like on a date, and his nickname was the Conqueror? Do you think my daughter should go with that guy? Like, what are his intentions if his nickname is the Conqueror? And I've raised my daughters to be strong and independent. They're like, your nickname is the Conqueror? Yeah, see ya, take the train. I'm not going out with you, okay? Because they know better than that. And by these explorers using the name of Conqueror, right? That tells you their motive. Their motive isn't to be nice. Their motive is to go there, to go to these other places around the world and take and conquer and spread their own ways, okay? And so that's how you got to kind of look at the age of exploration, because it's going to force changes around the world that we still see today, okay? So I'm going to stop it there for your first lesson, and we're going to take a look at specific parts of the world that Europeans went to as we go throughout the week. So keep logging on this week, and each lesson will be roughly this long, and I'll see you in class.